Can you tell by looking at this if this is scalloped cheesy potatoes or potatoes au gratin? Turns out there isn't really much separating these two very different sounding dishes. And they are different dishes, but it doesn't seem to be much separating the two. Turns out it's only the crust. Even I was fooled that I made the wrong dish when I was initially making scalloped potatoes, but then I was like, I want to put cheese on it. It's going to be so much nicer. And then I was freaking out that, oh, did I make the wrong dish? Let's take a look. The dish looked incredible, and this time, instead of using yellow potatoes, I am using russet potatoes. And at the end, I really didn't taste much of a difference. But just like my potatoes au gratin recipe, I sliced these potatoes into 1/8 of an inch thick slices. And I've seen out there that for potatoes au gratin, you gotta go 1/8 of an inch thick, but 1/4 of an inch thick for scalloped potatoes. But I just wanted it thinner, it's just so much nicer. And it's probably gonna reduce the cook time as well. And I made a couple small changes to the sauce I'm gonna be using for the bake. So we're gonna make our cheesy bechamel sauce right now. So heat up your butter, let that get nice and molten, and then add in your finely chopped onions. I'm also adding finely minced garlic in here. And once that has had a chance to soften a bit, get fragrant, then I'm gonna add some cayenne pepper. And at this stage, just roasting it for a few minutes will help release more of the spices flavors. Then you add in the flour and we start to create a roux. You wanna cook that roux out for 3 to 4 minutes and then start to slowly add your cold milk. Add it a bit at a time until you've added everything. You will never get any lumps if you do it this way. Then I'm gonna add some sprigs of thyme, a bay leaf, and some fresh gratings of nutmeg. Add a bit of sage as well. Just season that up with salt and pepper, and then let that come up to a simmer. And as soon as that happens, it will thicken. You can check by swiping the back of a spoon after you dip it, and if it doesn't drip down, your sauce is perfect. Now put that off the heat and then add in half of your cheese. I'm using a Red Fox variety old cheddar. And I did discard the whole spices, so I removed thyme and the bay leaf. Now for the casserole, I have this nice square casserole because also my potato slices are super big and my previous casserole for the gratin recipe just won't do it. So I'm gonna arrange them in a spiral and I'm gonna layer the bechamel and potatoes together until I get to the top layer. And be sure to be generous with the sauce, cover it up because you need that moisture in there to basically help cook the potatoes well. And I have greased the bottom of the casserole as well. Now make sure to cover it really nice and bake it for about 60 to 65 minutes. Basically as long as it takes to get those potatoes fork tender. And covering it basically helps to keep the steam intact in the casserole to cook the potatoes. And honestly, there really isn't much difference between the au gratin recipe versus this. I just had some different techniques in the au gratin where instead of layering the potatoes in the sauce, I actually just mixed it all together and then put it all on the casserole. You can do either or, honestly. So after the potatoes are fork tender, remove the casserole, add in the rest of your cheddar cheese. Then you want to bake this uncovered, and for me it took about 20 to 30 minutes to get a perfect crust on the top. And also baking it at this stage without the lid will help to kind of evaporate any excess moisture that's in that casserole, so the dish will become much tighter. Now, you may have noticed I didn't put breadcrumbs on it. And some things I saw online about au gratin versus scalloped potatoes is that au gratin has a crust. Now, in my opinion, that cheese that I put on top is a crust. But according to some, the crust isn't a crust until it's crusty from the breadcrumbs. But let me know down below, like, are the two the same recipe or am I just losing it, right? But they're both delicious, don't get me wrong. I just don't know where the line is drawn. If I want to have scalloped potatoes and I want cheese in it, am I making au gratin or am I making cheesy scalloped potatoes? Regardless, I topped this up with some finely chopped chives, and after letting it rest for a few minutes, get that perfect portion of scalloped potatoes out of the casserole and let your mouth burn as you take that first bite, because it's going to be oh so worth it. And believe it or not, we finished this entire casserole at once. 2 people. Pair it up with your favorite meals. Get some takeout of like just some skewers of meat, maybe like even souvlaki chicken, but just enjoy these potatoes because you cannot go wrong with it. Try it out. Let me know what you think and let me know what you found to be the difference, the line, the defining factor between potatoes au gratin and cheesy scalloped potatoes. And let me know if you got fooled down below as well on April Fool's Day. I'll see you on the next one.